Let's say you make a whole lot of money. Okay, I'm talking moolah. Dinero, as they say down in China or something. You can go anywhere you want. You can work whenever you want. Sounds pretty nice, right? But there's a catch. You're a chronic goner. People point and laugh at you as you walk down the street. Women literally walk past you and they go, "Ew, who is this little goblin? Who is this little goon goblin within my presence?" is what they say. Oh yeah, you're also a degenerate gambler who chucked his entire family on black at the casino. It landed on red, which means little Timmy, you're not gonna see him anytime soon. He's not gonna be back for a while. Would you consider yourself a free man? Probably not, mate. Okay, you're a chronic goner. Women say ew and think that you're a goblin. You've lost little Timmy at the casino. All right, you're probably not a free man. When I was younger, specifically when I was in high school, I was probably just like you, honestly. I played a lot of video games. I didn't much enjoy school. I didn't put a whole lot of thought into kind of my future. I did have a lot of ideas. I had like random spurts of motivation. Like 1 minute I want to be a YouTuber, then I want to be an actor. At one point I even wanted to be a rapper. But apart from that, I had no solid goals or ambitions. And because I had no solid goals or ambitions, I didn't worry too much about my lifestyle, or more so the habits that I was doing. Obviously, when you're that age, the only two things that you care about is like having fun with your mates and attracting girls. But I was just like the average teenage boy is what I'm trying to say. Would I have considered myself a free man or like a free teenage boy? No, in reality, I was a slave to some pretty bad habits. I relied on video games to cure my boredom and stimulate me. I likely wouldn't have been able to resist junk food if it was near. Obviously, TikTok was very addicting. Obviously, there's a huge issue with porn being so easily accessible, and unfortunately, 99% of young men, teenage boys have watched it and do watch it. I was just like the majority of not only just teenage boys, by the way, but also grown men who just aren't free men. Obviously, the most popular ways of becoming a free man is by achieving the 3 forms of materialistic freedom: financial freedom, time freedom, and location freedom. All of those goals are fantastic, by the way, and you should definitely chase them. I know that I'm certainly going to be chasing these forms of freedom, but in this specific video, I'm going to be talking more about 3 different non-materialistic and more specific ways to become a free man. Starting with temperance. Temperance is the first kind of virtue that you need in order to become a free man. To become a temperate man and to live a temperate life, you have to be completely in control of your actions and your decisions. You have to be completely free from addiction and vice. Bad habits is the most obvious example here. Most men in our modern age are slaves to bad habits like porn, video games, junk food, doom scrolling. That's just to name like the most popular few that come to mind. These men are not free. If you were to ask a lot of people, like, what do you think it means to be free? A lot of people would probably say, oh, to be able to do whatever you want whenever you want. Basically, do whatever you feel like whenever you feel like it. But what actually happens when you live that way is you start to indulge in all of the really stimulating, really addicting habits, and then of course you become addicted. You become addicted and you become dependent. Then, if you ever want to stop doom scrolling, or you ever want to stop playing video games to maybe get some significant work done in your life to move towards some sort of goal, suddenly you're not actually free anymore. You're now a slave to these addicting habits that you've just abused the usage of. If you live a life of temperance, that doesn't necessarily mean that you live a life that's totally absent of these habits. Maybe porn is the only habit out of the examples that I gave, which I would say, like, you probably want to keep that out of your life forever. But most other habits, like playing video games, like even doom scrolling, like content consumption, junk food, they can just be done with temperance. The most important thing is that you're actually in control. You have your priorities straight, and all of these addicting habits, all of these addicting behaviors, your feelings can never get in the way of your deepest intentions. Lust has no control over you. Sloth has no control over you. You don't have this constant need for dopamine. You're a slave to no habits, no behaviors, nothing. You take part in maybe some addicting behaviors, or behaviors that can become addictions, with full control and the intention and ability to keep that control, to ensure that you never become enslaved by them. So as I already mentioned, I used to be a slave to some pretty bad habits. What if I told you that I am at a point right now where even if I'm like exposed to these kind of addicting habits, like some junk food, some video games, some doom scrolling, I am fully capable of controlling my consumption and not getting re-addicted in literally any way possible. I can be trusted to live a life of balance and temperance because, for example, if I have Instagram installed on my phone, let's say like I'm doom scrolling on the bus, or I'm even just doom scrolling in my room, you best believe all of the work that I have to do for the day is still getting done. It's not like this doom scrolling is not going to take over the day. It's not going to make sure that I don't get that necessary work done. If mum buys a bunch of Christmas food next month, but I've decided that I want to keep my fat grams below 90 grams a day, you best believe those macro expectations are still being met. You likely can't be trusted to live a life of temperance, which, by the way, that's completely fine because I was at that same point at one stage in my life. In fact, for most of my life. If you have TikTok installed on your phone, your screen time is 2 to 6 hours higher than it would be without. If your PS5 is plugged into your TV, basically ready to play, you're going to play it every single day. What I did to get to the point that I'm at right now, the point where I can take part in these addicting behaviors and I can never become dependent, I regularly did a dopamine detox. And I know that you're just going to like roll your eyes at just the sound of it. You're probably sick of hearing about dopamine detoxes by now, but the reason why it's such a popular practice is because it just fucking works. Limiting highly dopaminergic behavior raises the dopamine baseline over time. Your body is basically forced to create more of its motivation just throughout the day, kind of like more linear, because you're not giving it any external motivation from all of these hyper-stimulating activities. Therefore, less stimulating activities are actually more motivating to do and become more fun. If you want to feel genuine fire, like genuine motivation and passion when it comes to working on your business or studying in school, limit hyperstimulation. Raise that dopamine baseline so high to the point where working on your business or studying is actually one of the more fun things that you do throughout your day. If you want to feel genuine joy and excitement when you do eventually take part in these addicting behaviors, like you do actually indulge in some junk food, you do actually play some video games with some mates, limit the usage of these activities so much to the point where when you do actually indulge in them, when you do actually take part in them, they're more exciting because they're more rare. It's like you don't do it very often. Most importantly, if you don't want to be a slave to any of these bad habits anymore, if you want to get to the point that I'm at, where I can doom scroll on the bus, right, I can play the new Simpsons Fortnite season with my buddies, and I won't become addicted. All of the work that I have to do in the day, like, it's still all getting done. You know, not getting a huge surge in my screen time, not staying up till 3 a.m. on the PS when, you know, I told myself I was gonna wake up at 6, I was gonna wake up at 8. Do what I have done very regularly for years now, which is a dopamine detox. I run a full dopamine detox for about a week, literally just 1 week. If ever I do feel like I'm losing that temperance, like for example, if I'm, you know, doom scrolling too much, I'll delete the app. If I'm playing too many video games, I'll put the PS5 away. Like I said, during the time where I am on those dopamine detox, Instagram, TikTok, whatever apps that I don't really scroll on TikTok, but Instagram, whatever apps that I could basically spend a lot of pointless time doom scrolling on, they're all deleted from my phone. I keep my PS5 in a rucksack, literally just in the cupboard over there. It's not right now, obviously. I was playing the new Fortnite season. Obviously, can't do a whole lot about junk food. I still live with my family, so if they buy it, I just gotta use my discipline. Porn hasn't been an issue for me for about 3 years now. I do have a full dopamine detox video planned for some point in the future, so if you think you'd be interested in that, stick the flip around. You freed yourself from the shackles of emotion and addictive feelings. You're now a much more temperate man. The next step to becoming a free man is to just look a little bit into purpose. Purpose is a tricky one. I'm certainly not going to sit here and act as though I've sussed it fully, but what I will do is just share my current understanding of it as a novelty-seeking man who wants to do everything from creating music to building a billion-dollar company. My current understanding of purpose is that it's very autonomous and dynamic. I don't personally believe that we all just have like one God-given purpose in a very specific field. I think in a lot of ways we ought to choose our purpose and actually maybe even fulfill multiple throughout our entire lifetime. One very crucial aspect of purpose, however, is that it's full of charity. It's work that is done with the purpose of benefiting others, whether it be directly or indirectly. An artist might feel purposeful in his movies, his artwork, his music, having great impact on its consumers. A political figure might feel very purposeful when it comes to, you know, promoting his political views in order to make his nation a better place. A lot of people marry the idea of purpose with passion, but these two things actually aren't the same. You can be passionate about playing video games, watching movies, collecting rocks, but ultimately these things can never be your purpose because they don't even indirectly help anybody else, especially, you know, certainly not directly, and ultimately they contribute nothing to the world. It's completely lacking that charity, unless of course you found a way to make it purposeful. Either way, I believe that I will personally fulfill many different purposes throughout my life. Right now, my main kind of like purpose and mission is this YouTube channel, but also like my TikTok and my Instagram as well. The silent suffering and confusion of young men wanting to kind of be stronger, be more confident, be more masculine is an issue that I hold very close to my heart. That's the first question that I'd strongly consider asking yourself. If you don't currently have any idea of the kind of conquest or mission that you're going to be on, what issue or problem within the world would you be interested in fixing, and what skills do you currently have? Like, what are you currently good at? Maybe you can't currently think of anything that you would be of use in. Maybe you can't think of any significant skills that you have. Cool. In that case, you've literally never had more widely available, mostly free resources to become useful, to build skills in basically any field that you have right now in 2025 going into 2026. So if you don't have any skills for a specific issue or problem, go out and start developing them. The second part of this section on purpose is diligence. It's interesting actually that the ways to truly become a free man sound an awful, like objectively sound an awful lot like you're not actually becoming a free man at all. But that's really because man is a conscious, social creature of purpose and motive. Meaning if we're not constantly regulating our usage of certain behaviors or even fighting towards a cause, we actually feel very trapped and we don't feel very free at all. We end up feeling depressed because we feel just purposeless and useless to other human beings. Most of our value is derived from what we can contribute to other people. And that's why having strong diligence within your purpose is absolutely crucial to becoming a free man. Becoming diligent or fulfilling your due diligence is just a fancier way of basically saying doing the work that you've got to do. To be a diligent man means to let very little stand in the way of you and your work. The biggest and most common bit of resistance here is just lack of motivation. You're not feeling motivated to work, so you don't work, something that feels very liberating in the moment, but later you find it's actually trapped you behind in your progress. It's trapped you in a position, in an inferior position to the position that you'd actually prefer to be in. If you had worked through that motivation with discipline, you'd be in the better position. You'd be in the better of the two positions, which would actually make you feel more free because you wouldn't feel trapped behind. Of course, like, there is nuance here. Some situations just will halt your work, like there's absolutely no doubt about that. But there is nothing more liberating and freeing in the future than being strong enough to work through periods of amotivation now. Just like most good things, diligence will suck now, but it will feel very good later on. The last, but honestly most important part of becoming a free man is limiting beliefs. Napoleon once said that impossible is a word to be found only in the dictionary of fools. He did actually lose the Napoleonic Wars, and he was banished to a very remote island in the Atlantic. But that's besides the point. He was a great man. Great obviously meaning that he achieved great feats, like he achieved grand feats during his time as Emperor of France. He achieved feats that most average men, like you and me, wouldn't even entertain the possibility of trying. He did this purely because he believed he could, which by the way, I understand this sounds so incredibly gay. You will hear people often talking about this kind of like manifestation, that like the power of belief, and trust me, I understand how jarring it sounds, but even so, I can go and use a more tame kind of modern example of 17-year-olds becoming millionaires, becoming stupidly rich within like 2 to 3 years of just working hard. Literally the only reason that these kids were able to achieve such feats is because they were fed a certain kind of propaganda online. You know, they were told, oh, it's very possible, you know, you just gotta work hard, you just gotta do this, you gotta do that, it's very possible. They thought little about the limits. They believed what they were hearing and they went for it. They literally just believed the very rich man that was talking to them on the screen, the man who they didn't know in person. They didn't have any reason to trust him. They believed what he had to say, they fought for it, and they fucking achieved it. The reason most people stay average is because they truly believe that greatness is just too far out of their reach. Money is on a pedestal as this very rare, kind of very valuable asset, which obviously it is, but there are just too many people in the world who are fighting for the money. There's too many people in the world who already have the money. There's too many people in the world who are just better than you at skill, like basically every skill that you can ever get good at. And so they're always going to outcompete you, and you're basically wasting your fucking time by trying. But what really separates the very small percentage of people who hit big and aim bigger, and the 99.9% of people who just don't aim at all or aim all the way down here, is belief. Some of these 17-year-old millionaires are not very high IQ, like they're 17-year-olds. I don't mean to offend anybody here. Obviously they fucking achieved what I haven't, so it's like they're fucking, we gotta look up to them in some way, right? I just mean to be really honest and, you know, very real. They aren't just super geniuses who were just born with a higher average IQ than most people. No, to be honest with you, some of them are fucking retards. They simply were just told that it's possible to hit big, they believed what they were told, and then they just did it. The exact same idea can be applied when it comes to something like talking to girls. Most guys will not approach the 10 out of 10 girl because in their mind it's a completely useless conquest. It's a completely useless mission and action to take. Way too much competition, way too out of your league. There's just no chance that anything good can actually come from this. In reality, that's exactly what the mass of men are thinking. Even the really attractive 10 out of 10 men are thinking this. Therefore, the 10 out of 10 girl barely gets approached more than the 5 out of 10 girl. The guy who doesn't think in limits and he just tries anyway, maybe he actually gets a date with her. I mean, dude, we've all seen chopped ass guys. Like chopped ass guys, they don't have a lot of money either. You know, they're not super rich, they're not super jacked, they're not even like super tall. And some of them are walking around with fucking 10 out of 10s. The reason that the borderline autistic Chad in high school, who's addicted to video games, he's addicted to porn, he's not like doing all of the good habits that maybe you and I are doing, not doing anything purposeful with his life. The reason why he actually gets the 10 out of 10 girl is because he just doesn't think about the limits. He isn't shaken as he approaches her, you know, spending days prior thinking of like the best thing to say. He just sees her, he walks up to her, he acts like his autistic self, he's just very authentic. He just flirts casually because there's no like weird fucking dystopian idea of girls being this alien, intimidating, completely different species that's kind of been lodged into his brain from, I don't know, fucking reels or just social media or whatever. And he probably cracks. Okay, he probably cracks. Limiting beliefs are what keep men single, lonely, addicted, purposeless, and most importantly, unsuccessful and unsatisfied with their current position in life. Chase the three forms of materialistic freedom: time, location, and what was the fucking other one? Financial. But just remember that real freedom comes from breaking the shackles of vice and just becoming like a virtuous man. Is your nan virtuous? No, she bloody isn't, mate. So you know exactly what she needs. Chuck her the link to this video. I can get her on a cheeky 5-week program to get her bloody ass into gear. Most nans would actually beat me in a fight, so I probably shouldn't be so cheeky. Like, subscribe, drop a cheeky comment, okay? Just type nan. Yeah, that'll do. Goodbye.